Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode or live stream for the OSR Tabletop live stream with DM Bluddworth. And today I'm kind of focusing on just doing like a DM's roundtable. Very impromptu, what wasn't really planning on focusing in on anything very specific. I just wanted to invite invite people to come in on the chat and talk about our our game mastery experiences, and perhaps talk a little bit about what systems we like to run and why. And I threw in a couple questions here and there to to just kind of gauge if there's any real commonality in our experiences, whether it be our favorite RPGs to run, or if there are any things that we see, like like our top 3 tips we would give to a new DM, or a very common mistake that we see with new DMs, and how we might go about trying to help them fix those issues. So without further ado, I will be monitoring the chat, and of course, anyone who wants to jump in, I'll periodically put up the the invite link right there in the chat. I can take up to I believe 10, either 9 or 10 people that want to come in. Top tip for new DMs is to learn. Let's see. So, top tip for new DMs is to learn early that you can say no to a player. Yeah, and that was going to be one of mine as well. So, let me get the link put out there. If anyone wants to join in, you can jump right in at that link there. So you just click in, and when I see you pop down at the bottom, I will let you come on in, and you can obviously come and go as you please. So while we're waiting for a few more people to pop in, I see we have 6 viewers right now. So welcome, Sean. I think Sean is currently getting the Microsoft update Kiss of Death. So hopefully that'll come in, pretty quickly. He'll be able to fix that pretty quickly. Nordic Maelstrom, welcome back. As you said earlier, it's been a while since I've done a live stream, and I'm glad you caught this one right at the beginning. Kind of hard to find a great time to do these without stepping on the toes of some other people that like to run around 8 o'clock in the evening Eastern time. But you know what? Sometimes you just have to hit while the opportunity presents itself. So the channels I would normally be watching, sorry, but wanted to get this out there. So recently, I had I got a private message from the evil DM, Vince. So I have a little bit of a history with Vince. We actually did Unscripted Evil, with Vince and Jeff, and we ran that for quite a few weeks, mostly during the previous summertime, and then we kind of moved away from that particular channel, or I like to call it like a channel feature. And but it's been a while since I've really had a time to chance to really talk with him. And he had mentioned that he had done a top 4 RPGs. So I was certainly going to do the same thing. I'll probably incorporate that as I go through this live stream as well, since this live stream is talking about DMing some of our favorite games and tips and such. So let's see who else we have here. Good evening, Mr. Max Boyven. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Good evening. Welcome back. I know I've seen you before. So good to have you back here. And, you'll be, I encourage you to put in any any comments that you want. And if you want to jump in, there's a link now 2 times that you can jump in, and I'll bring you on the channel. I have room up to 10 if you're comfortable with doing that. I have a question that would be one that a new DM should know too. How do you go about creating a city in Dungeons and Dragons? Creating a city. It for me, I would still start small and expand as time goes on. So just like you would do in any like a world map, if you were. So if I started, if I created a city, now I'm a terrible map maker. So there are dozens upon dozens of map generating software out there that you can either purchase or just find online, or you could just do a Pinterest and then find a city map that's already out there. It's not so much the map that's important, but how you flesh it out and create it. So I would have the players start off, you know, in a tavern. I know Sean would probably lose his mind over that, but I'd have them start off in a tavern and kind of expand out there. Maybe do a couple of adventures within one district of the city, and then move out into other ones as they go. And this isn't just a D&D thing either. I mean, I think it would work really well if you were doing something like an RPG set in Fallout, as you're expanding out and in a post-apocalyptic setting, or that could be Stalker or any other post-apocalyptic setting that you're doing, and so you're expanding. Hell, you could even do it with like a Twilight 2000 and have them going from have the soldiers going from neighborhood to neighborhood and expanding out what they discover as they're going through this shattered city scape. And you can set various goals and various operational targets that they need to achieve as they're going out there as well. So yeah, I mean, that would be my tip, is to still start small and expand from there. So let's see. Sean Cherry, hello. Good to have you here. And Nordic, you asked a follow-up. I'm thinking about creating a setting for AD&D first edition or second edition or Beckby, solely in Metropolis, much like Lankmar. Yeah, I mean, you could even take, if you have the Lankmar map, you can even take the Lankmar map and just repurpose it to your own setting. But yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I you know I would lean towards a much like a really dark kind of setting, for that. So kind of like a Shadowzar the Wicked, if you know more of like a Conan fan like I am, or just very very dark setting. Lankmar, I was never a big fan of Lankmar in AD&D. We had it at the time, and there was just something about it that I wasn't really crazy about. I was never a huge fan of Fritz Leiber. I know everybody's probably like, "Oh my gosh, that's heresy," but for some reason the storylines, or the characters themselves really didn't strike my interest. So, all right, let's see. Yes, well, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Twilight 2000 is probably one of my favorite RPGs from back in the day. And actually, when I was thinking of my top four, that was certainly kind of in there. It might still make its way back into my top four, but yeah, that's just discovering the different parts, and I'm sure that they did that. Like, you know, the City of Krakow campaign or the adventure booklet was very much like that. You were, you know, starting off and you were working your way out, just trying to discover what was left or whatever. It's been, God, 40 years since I've actually played that, but yeah, that's, you know, certainly something to do. Yeah, I don't like to always hang us on, you know, the idea of, you know, everything has to be about Dungeons and Dragons. So I always like to take the opportunity to expand that thought and go into something else. Let's see, we got some more. When I was in my 20s, we didn't have a cell phone, so in the evening we would all meet at the pub and decide from there what we were going to do for the evening. We met in a tavern before going on adventures. Yeah. Um, yes, and you can have tavern hopping, you know, which is sometimes an adventure all on its own. Yes, very meta. Yes, it is indeed. Yes, it just might be. No, I haven't. I haven't run. I don't even have Mongoose Traveler. I have the original Traveler, and I have yet to run that as well. So, Traveler is definitely a game that I want to give a try. And if ever I can join Sean Driscoll's game, I would certainly love the opportunity to probably drive him crazy with the way that I role play. Um, but uh, but yeah, I would definitely like to give that game a try before I run it. I'd like to play it first. Certain games, I think they come off as being very daunting, and so I wouldn't like to pick them up and jump right into game mastering them or dungeon mastering them. And I'd rather play it for a little bit first and then get into it. And that was certainly my take with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which is I would place AD&D First Edition as my favorite tabletop role playing game. It's the one I have the most experience with. It's one that I didn't jump into right away. I had played about 2 years of D&D Basic. That would have been um, the Moldvay, or possibly Holmes. I'm not sure which one my DM friend owned, and which one we actually started playing with. But I have a feeling it might have been Holmes. But I did that for about 2 years before I got into AD&D, and I played AD&D for about 2 years before I started DMing it. So, you know, it's certain games are, I think, best suited to play first and then to run, because it just some of them are complex enough that it shouldn't be taken up as a DM for, you know, the inexperienced. Yeah, the City of Krakow. I wasn't quite sure the name of it. Okay, let's see. If anyone wants to jump in, um, I will put up the link once again. And if this link is not working, just let me know. Um, so I think we're all waiting to play in Driscoll's game. Yeah, so you know, hopefully he'll put it out there. I just, you know, I love sending him videos of you know, of tabletop games live plays that I think that he will, you know, that he will probably cringe from a little bit. So you know, I just sent him one where Satine Phoenix was the DM, and although she had a moment or two that was pretty cool. All right, we got. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we all watched your video that you sent Sean last night. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I was watching his thing, and there was like that one moment that I pointed out, and in the not the live comments, but in the in the static comments, I guess you'd call it, where I think it was like at like 10:44 or something like that when she actually, you could tell she was getting frustrated because her players were going to stand in that tavern and talk for another 25 minutes, and so she in the voice of the NPC said, "Hey, why don't we go along and
Yes.
do something?" And I was like, that's actually something that's a very positive thing to do, is to encourage them. But the next place that we're going to was another freaking
It was
tavern.
another
I was
tavern.
like,
Yeah.
I was like,
No,
you're gonna run into the same damn trap.
yeah, we caught all that, and I think I put in the comments after yours. I said we caught all that, and then she never
Yeah,
did it again in the rest of the game.
right.
It's like, wow, she really needed to. She needed to have an NPC along with those guys.
Yeah, I struggled watching it the first time, and I only got about like 10 or 15 minutes, and I was like, once they started shilling all of their projects, I
Yeah.
was like, I'm done. I was like, this is a, you know, I didn't pick up until watching Sean's recap of it that this was really advertising their Kickstarter at the time, and so I was like, all right, well, now I can almost see why, but that kind of thing should be done at the very beginning and the very end,
Right.
not while they're role playing. I mean, all of a sudden they just broke out and everybody started shilling their projects, in the middle of the session. I was like,
Well,
wow, this is really horrible.
well,
It's like,
Kevin, he's the guy that joins us in the chats. He said that she can really run AD&D, and we're like, fine. So I'm searching. I was like, well, I found a fifth edition thing she ran. So we stopped that stream. We stopped that video. We put it on the fifth edition one, and
right.
that was slightly better, but it was still not good.
Yeah, it was not good. I watched that too when you did it. I was like, and it was, yeah, right. It was slightly better, but 5e is just such a bad system to run. I mean, it's just because if you recall, like Luke Gygax was spending his whole time looking at
Looking
the
at his
character
books,
sheet
or
to
looking
try
at
to
his
figure
books.
out.
I don't know
Yeah,
what he was doing.
well, he's probably not. I don't believe that he runs or plays 5e that
Five, right,
often. Number
right.
one. So there's some people that I follow, their channels, and they think that, Gary Con is a big 5e festival. It's really not. It's
No, it's
yeah,
OSR festival,
yeah,
as
it's
far
an
as I'm
OSR
aware. So
festival,
yeah,
and I think it's actually kind of rare, that they run 5e games there to begin with. I know when I did the virtual con, for Gary Con and for Legends and what the frick, I just slipped my mind. What was it? The other semi Gary Con thing.
right.
There were only like AD&D, like D&D, a couple of like Gamma World and things like that. I mean, it was all old school TSR stuff. Things that Gary Gygax actually laid his hands on. That
Right.
was that's the gist of going to Gary Con, really. So but yeah, I saw that, and then I saw the cartoon that you guys put up there.
I was gone after that, and I got blamed
Yeah.
for the video before that. But they put the cartoon up there, and I'm like, I watched that today, and I'm like, that's really kind of cringy, and I don't think that's really role play either. That's not really role playing either. Those are a bunch of guys acting for a crowd, being comic guys.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got from it, was that, and a lot of these Twitch streams are like that. They're not showing, like, they're putting on a show for the people watching on Twitch. They're not actually running a game, and even though in that second video she did actually get around to actually playing a game, but it was all the same kind of thing over and over again. I
Right.
mean, all it was initiative rolls, attack rolls, and everyone doing like perception checks or
Right.
or whatever. It was all like just very repetitive kind of thing, and not very interesting. It was boring as hell. I mean,
Well,
geez.
not to steal away from your stream here, but
Yeah,
that's what Sean looks for. And what we
yeah.
found, I thought about it today, and what we've seen from doing these is that I don't know if it's a D&D thing or what, but they'll spend an hour talking about their characters and meeting in a tavern. Then they'll if they were lucky, they'll get a combat. And
Hmm.
then they'll stand in front of a door for another hour, and that's 3 hours of the video.
Yeah,
A combat for an hour, and then another hour in front of a door.
yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily a D&D thing. I think it's a modern player
Right.
thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what they're looking for. They're looking for story. They're looking to be entertained,
Mhm.
and not necessarily looking to see, oh, what's the game mechanics of this? How does this game actually function? Can I tell what does function? I remember Sean actually said, you should be able to tell what the character class is,
By how the
by
player
yeah,
acts. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, by how the player acts, and you couldn't tell from there because they weren't really playing a game. They were telling a story,
Yeah.
and and I see that over and over again. Like I tried to find some other people that are touted as being, very good dungeon masters,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all the same kind of mold. Like everyone trying to be a Matt Mercer, but
Right.
Matt
Right.
Mercer actually has some understanding of how the game works. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're there and they're struggling with the actual game mechanics that they should know, you know. So I don't know. It's hard to find really good role playing out there, that makes you look at it and listen to it and be like, oh wow, that's something that I can improve my own DMing
Right.
from by looking at what they do. Which is one thing I really like about Sean's channel is like when he picks apart these other things. I mean, I look at it, I'm like, wow, you know what? I'm going to start doing that.
No, it
Because
helps me because I've seen
yeah,
myself and some of these guys running and playing these
yeah,
games. So I've done that, and you know
yeah.
what? When I can step outside and see that, I can see where there'd be an issue there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something that I started. You know what? I'm doing. I'm rolling the dice. Even though I'm using Roll20 because there's, I only play virtual.
Right.
So it's like I'm just doing my rolls out there. Let them see the rolls. And then I'm trying to get everybody away from just, including myself, away from talking about the numbers, but just describing what they,
Right.
what they actually did. It's
Instead
been
of
a
you
while.
saying, instead of the GM saying, "Yeah, this is what happened. This is what happened." It's like, you know what? You roll the dice. You know what a success is. You know how good your success is.
Ex-
You tell me what happened.
Yeah, yeah. You describe to me what your, fantastic success or, your near, your slight failure actually look like.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
show me how
yeah.
awesome you are. Don't let me tell you how awesome you are.
Mm.
Yeah.
And just steer away from the numbers. Don't tell me, I can see that you rolled an 8 damage on a D8, so all you have to do is say, wow, he hit him with a massive hit. I get the same thing because I know the number,
Right.
so don't tell me I rolled an 8, say, or I did 8 points of damage. So yeah, that's one thing that I really learned from watching Sean's videos is, this is just a much better way of role playing, even on the part of the DM actually role playing,
Right.
with the players as well. So let's see, we got some more comments in
You do.
here. So let's see. Hey, Pale Rider. Theater of the mind with graph paper, all I've ever done. Yep. That's
That's pretty much all you need, actually.
yeah, that's all you need. And with technology, and like I said, we just came out of like 2 years practically of not being able to even consider going to public spaces and playing at tables and such. So That's kind of weird.
What happened?
I don't know. It just like recycled or something.
Okay.
My whole screen just,
You
put
froze
us
up
in
on
a.
me.
Yeah. I think I probably just had like a little hiccup on the internet. But anyway, so yes, theater of the mind with graph paper, and you could duplicate graph paper on the computer screen
Oh,
as well.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen some people use like one of my DMs recently. He busted out this like a whiteboard kind of thing, and he used to hand draw everything,
Oh, very cool.
and yeah, he wasn't a very neither am I. He wasn't a very talented, artist as far as doing this thing, and it looked like a 5-year-old, with a crayon had drawn these maps, but hey. You know what? It worked, and it was like, all right, that's cool enough.
You expect people that play role-playing games to have an imagination, so it shouldn't be hard for them to actually accept any of that as far as playing that way.
Yeah, no, it's very nostalgic. It brought me back to when I was a 10-year-old playing for the first time. So let's see. Yeah, it's acting. It's and the one thing that I do give Matthew Mercer credit for is that he comes out and tells people, you're not supposed to try to duplicate this. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because he could be a real schmuck about it and say, yeah, this is the way to play. He doesn't. He comes out and he says, no, you're not going to be able to duplicate this. I don't know if he's ever come out and said, listen, this is a highly produced, super production behind it, tens of thousands, if not millions, of dollars set into set and everything. And, we're all voice actors, working, but he does say your expectations should not be to duplicate this. So I give him credit there. Sometimes I use miniatures, but I mean, not as far as, only live would I use miniatures. I don't like using the tokens on the on the virtual tabletops. To me, it's like I still do theater of the mind even on a tabletop. I can't stand trying to figure out Roll20's dynamic lighting. It's such a pain in the ass. I can't really tell what those are.
Those are clinking glasses. It looks like
clinking glasses. I don't know what that means.
Or they're chicken legs.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh, he cast a power word stun. Yeah, that affected both of us. It was an area effect. All right, so let's see. Yeah, and you could do a combination of both too. I've seen that as well. So, hey, whatever visual aspects you need to use in order to, for the players to be able to figure out, this is where my character is, and then they're going to verbalize this is what my character is doing, and if they need miniatures on the board to do that, then fine. If they want to use tokens on a virtual tabletop, then that's fine too. I've also seen, like I said, my previous DM used to just put little dots on the whiteboard, this is you, and that was it. That's all we needed was just little dots on the board. So I enjoy painting miniatures. I have hundreds of miniatures and not a single one of them painted.
I've got miniatures from 40 years ago when the hobby started out that aren't painted yet.
Yeah. I have very shaky hands. I would never be able to paint a miniature.
Once Steve Jackson and all those guys came out with the printable miniatures, the paper miniatures.
Yeah.
I kind of never went back. Those are so easy to do.
Yep. And I have a bunch of them as well.
I've got a ton.
So, Yeah, so it depends on the game and the group too. Some like more tactical games with very depth movement, and others like fast and loose combat.
Uh-huh.
Yep, yep. It's mix and match. You can enjoy both. Love playing in person with minis. My group, everyone designs their own Hero Forge, but your
That's
imagination is. The last thing I created in Hero Forge was
Hero Forge is pretty cool. Actually.
yeah, a little bit expensive, but pretty cool. But the last one I made, and I'll show, I'll probably piss off a few people. I totally recreated Kyle Rittenhouse on the Hero
Oh,
Forge.
dude.
I was like, let's see if I can get them to print this thing out and show it. You know, I still have it sitting in my queue there. I was like, but no, I'll just leave it there. But it came out perfect. It really did.
Oh.
Matching that t-shirt color was tough, but I think I nailed it. You know, backwards hat, everything. It had everything, you know, needed to. But I was like, all right, I'm not paying $60 for it. Utilize whiteboard for combat. It gets to the point where it's too hard to keep track of everyone else's character. Yeah, everyone else's characters. Yep. Legion of Myth. People only like minis because they wasted money buying them and time painting them. Totally unneeded to play. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, we loved them though. I mean, you know, I had the first set that I think it was a Grenadier set with the Lizard Man, and I love the Lizard Man from Trampier in the first Monster Manual. Yes. I asked my DM if I could play a Lizard Man fighter, and he was like, "Sure." And I named him Dat after his initials in the thing. So it was
That's
like,
great. That's great.
yeah, I mean, and I had that. You probably remember that Lizard Man that came out of that first. I think that was like one of the very first box sets of miniatures.
I have it actually.
Yeah, and I was like, that was it. I mean, I love that thing. I played that character until he died because it was 1E, so you occasionally died, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, all the Wizards minis that came out for AD&D, they were all Grenadier, but everybody knew that Raoul Partha was the best minis. They had the most detail on them.
Did they come out? Did Raoul Partha came out later though, or slightly later? I forget.
I can't remember. That's a long time ago, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Oh, we're gonna get into a feud here. Waste of time. The painting. Yeah, we need those guys like Bruce and DM James to come out and defend their painting of minis.
What I was told years ago is that if it brings you joy, it is not a waste of time. So if you really like doing it and painting the minis, that it's not a waste of time.
Yeah. Let's see. If anyone wants to join in, I will put the link up again. Now that I know the link works. So, yep, you're welcome to join in if you want to pop in. Let's see.
Ooh.
Crafty. Huh, same people, different day. Low. I'm not sure. Yeah, we seem to be in a crowd. If you're talking about like the people that pop into various live streams, we're I don't want to say a community, but we travel in the same circles. Let's put it that way.
Mostly it's because I'm interested. I'm pretty new to this. Actually, I just got my cam like last week. So Sean pushed me into this because I would comment so much on the streams. And I said, okay. But you know what? We all pretty much like the same things and we're of the same mind. So it's really great to get together and just talk with a bunch of guys about this stuff.
Yeah.
And not to be shy coming on and being in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah. No, it certainly does. All right. Let's see. CBK Ply. Hello. My group uses miniatures for description if anyone wanted a visual, but not everyone used them. Yep. Minis are not toys.
They're not toys.
No. All right.
They,
Let's see.
they are your pieces.
Yes, we have shared interests and travel in the same circles. And what I like is the fact that it's a growing circle. And I think
Yes.
that's very, very important, is that, and it's the one thing that I talk about the OSR, is that I've had people tell me, oh, why are you using Roll20? You shouldn't use Roll20. They hate you. They hate the OSR. Now, first of all, it's kind of silly because about 40%, I believe, 40% of the games run on Roll20 are not 5e. Secondly, if you want to expand the OSR, the best way to do it is to change that, that mix on places like Roll20. It's like run nothing but OSR, when you're there. It's like, don't join any 5e games. Just keep on putting it out there. I've never had a hard time attracting a lot of players to AD&D or D&D Back Me, or even some other games. People will come, if you build it, they will come. You have to just keep on hammering away.
Okay, all right.
Hello, Max.
Hey, I came
How's
here to
it
be a
going?
contrarian to everybody right now.
Of course.
First of all, everybody knows that minis are crap. If you want to play with your dumb little metal dolls, why don't you dress up in a little tutu as well and act silly, whatever. The other side is no, and on a more serious note, with Roll20, no, I disagree with you on the Roll20 thing, because I don't know if you know the story behind Roll20 coming out and telling a couple of creators. Now, these aren't creators I really enjoy. But it was like taking 20. Oh my God, I forget who else is involved. Basically, Roll20 said, we don't need any more white guys.
Oh, really?
Yes, straight up did that. It's probably a 2-year-old video now, but you can go to Taking 20's channel. Again, I can't believe I'm talking about him. But
right.
yeah, there's a big hubbub. And he's like, look, I support your stuff. I make a ton of videos about your stuff. We've got some other people who play D&D 5e that we'd love to, to do this for you. And they're like, we don't want any more white guys doing this.
I hate to disappoint them, but I'm afraid most of their users are white guys. So
yeah.
I hate to disappoint them.
Yeah.
I mean, statistics are gonna point to mostly white folks, because that's just the way it is in this country, anyways.
Yeah,
We don't live in the Congo. I'm just saying.
Are you sure? we're turning there. We're the white Congo now.
Yes. You know what? Eventually.
You said Congo, like the country, not conga line. Got it. Never mind.
No. Terrible.
But anyway, yeah, I just had to come on bust people's balls about minis, because that's apparently what I'm supposed to do, because everybody thinks I hate minis, so I play up the meme. But as far as the Roll20 thing goes, like, I tried to use it. I know some people like it. I thought it was over bloated. Like, I watch GM's Alcove use the Foundry, and I think that's even though I have a subscription to, what's the other one that competes with Roll20?
Fantasy Grounds.
Fantasy Grounds. Thank you.
Fantasy Grounds.
Fantasy Grounds. I have a subscription to that, to the Unity version of it, but that was more. Again, I don't want to have to learn how to use one of these things in order to play the game.
I literally use Roll20 just to, I'll grab a map off of the internet and then just put it under like a shadow, and then just reveal the hidden spaces as the players navigate, the various maps, and that's all I do with it. Another page I have for marching order. How is the group made up, and they track their hit points and their other stuff on there. That's all I do with it. If I could find an alternative that did exactly the same thing, that's what I would do. I use it for dice rolling. I mean, the most inexplicable thing that I've ever encountered was why Google Plus took away all those role-playing features that we had. I mean, that was I just couldn't understand it. Plus, it was directly linked to the Google Plus, the message boards and everything like that. It was just bizarre to me why they dismantled that and took away all of those gaming features, and why Discord can't include dice rollers. At least not that I know of, or it's probably very complicated, or it's behind a paywall, or something along those lines. So I just haven't found a good replacement that is that's free. That's the bottom line is that I just haven't found a very good replacement. So here we have Cal. Hello, Cal. He has almost 4,000 painted miniatures. If you have almost 4,000
Wow.
painted miniatures, would that mean that you have about 40,000 unpainted miniatures or something? Isn't like a 10% ratio is actually fully painted, and then the rest are in some kind of a partial paint status?
Probably.
So let's see. The thing I found funny is Watchley claims that the OSR are gatekeepers, yet it seems to be roles. You know what? I'm happy to be a gatekeeper. All right. I take pride in being a gatekeeper to keep people who don't come to the table looking to play the game. I gatekeep them out. You come to my table, I don't care what you look like or what you believe in or what. When you sit down at the table, if you're there to game, then you're welcome. If you're there to do something other than gaming, then you're not welcome. It's that simple.
Exactly. You're here to play. If you're not here to play,
yeah,
you need to leave.
Yeah, I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care what your gender identity is. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. All right. Don't come to my table and expect that I'm going to include anything in my game. It's like you're coming in and you're going to experience the world that I created the way that I created it. It's that simple. It's like, you're not going to find any, you're not going to find any African Americans in Greyhawk because there's no America and there's no Africa. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Dragons and fireballs. You can easily have somebody that has dark skin. There's
no looking for these cultural aspects so that I could see myself in your fantasy world. No, you're not a fantasy character. You're a real person.
That's just weird politics. That's just cultural politics. That's got nothing to do with anything real in real life, even though it's becoming more of a real life thing, unfortunately.
So what about the people that come to the hobby, start off, you think they're sincere, or maybe they are sincere, probably are sincere, want to play some games, hang out, so on and so forth. But you know what? Sometimes you just get the wrong crowd, or they start seeing these YouTube videos, or they just have those weird, you don't know it, and it doesn't matter, as you said, weird, crazy, I don't even call them leftists, these woke, this woke mentality, but again, came to the table, not espousing that. And 6 months, a year later, you come to find out they're not only on board with the D&D 5e train, but like every Twitter concept that you can think of, they start espousing, and you're a bad person. They're trying to get you, kicked out of wherever you are running the game, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, I'm speaking not from my experience, but from the experience of somebody I literally talked to today about this.
They don't like you because you're not part of the cult, basically.
So he taught some people how to play the game, and basically because he wasn't as left wing as a couple of the other people, those other people started poisoning the well, and essentially got him kicked out of the game that he was running in favor of. And it was a new person that had come into the group that had started doing that. Wow. And he's no longer welcome at the location that he was playing because he doesn't stand up and scream BLM and some other nonsense.
Well, that's what they do. They have all the people join the cult, and then if you don't join the cult, they get rid of you, right? That's how Marxism works.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why my stated goal is to stand up and vocally stand against them. Like no matter where I am, including the 2 surveys I had to take working for Department of Defense the last couple of days, where I actually typed in there, and somebody's like, "You shouldn't do that. It says anonymous, but it's not." And I said, "You take this woke." I said, "Take this woke crack, throw it out. I'm going to stand up against it. And any leader, I don't care if you're an SCS or a general officer, if you believe this nonsense, you deserve to be fired." I don't care. Like I don't play this BS. Like because if you don't stand up against it, then it's going to spread.
The officer corps period is just left, and it's getting worse.
Oh yeah, because it's all politics. Absolutely,
right, absolutely politics. Yeah,
I've worked for DoD for 30 years, and the changes that I've seen it, especially in the last 3 to 5.
Yeah, I know you've seen it then. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm going to point out this comment. Nordic, you're absolutely right. The Rules Cyclopedia is a great book. However, as a DM with brand new players, I'd rather use basic and then expert.
Are there any differences between BECME and Rules Cyclopedia? Everybody says they're the same thing. Are they, from your experience, literally the same thing?
They're really close.
Yeah, they're really close. Everything that's in BECME is in the Rules Cyclopedia, but then the Rules Cyclopedia includes other, additions and add-ons and little tweaks there. So the reason why I don't like to introduce new players to anything but BECME, and that's new role players included, not just new D&D players, is that I like the idea of them just having levels 1 to 3. All right. And learning the game mechanics, learning how it is to role play, and then opening it up with the next book that expands it from levels 4 to 14. But it just kind of, it slowly gets them, into making, just learning how to, play a tabletop role-playing game. When you give them the Rules Cyclopedia, I find that they're looking too far ahead and start like backwards planning, and they'll be like, oh, well, you know what? I know this is what I want when I'm 9th level. I was like, dude, you're not going to live that long, baby. You know what I'm saying? No. It's like, I don't want you to start projecting ahead and start to, because first of all, the character wouldn't know that. You know what I'm saying? Like the character might not have that kind of experience to even know what a 9th level magic user can actually do. Probably never encountered one in their lives. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, why have them, just overload with that much information in front of them? It's kind of like when I run my table, it's like, no, you can't have the Dungeon Master's Guide in front of you. Or the monster manual, or, you get the player's handbook. That's it, and I know some people push back against that. And that's another good DM tip, I think, is don't give your players too much information. Let them just, have a very simple character sheet in front of them. And the only thing that they should really know is what their characters can do. All right. And then, anything that's not on the page, they can still make an attempt to do. You don't want them to live on the character sheet either. You want them to go beyond the character sheet. And that's something that I think the older games did much better, is they did have a very simple character sheet because characters didn't have that many abilities, certainly not multi-layers of abilities. And so you were forced to role play off of that character sheet. You were forced to think, well, just because I'm a fighter and that doesn't mean I can't do or I can't try to pick a lock, or I can't try to, I don't have the background skill to put a band-aid on, but a bandage on, but I kind of know, like, have some sense of what it's like to try to wrap up a wound, and so give them a try, allow them to try it.
Right.
They might do more damage than good, but
they are adventurers. They should be able to do this speedy healing, or at least be able to bind a wound and stuff like that, right? Try to break open a lock. The only problem I had with Rules Cyclopedia and BECME was in regards to thieves. They stretched the thieving skills where normally be like 15 levels or 10 levels to max out. They stretched it over 30 levels. So it seemed like the thieves hardly ever got better.
Yeah.
That was the only thing.
Yeah. Yeah, thieves didn't. Some of their skills really did lag behind like other player characters. So like classes. So that was the one thing. I like what Frank Metzner did with the kind of the Jack that he did on Dragon's Foot actually,
Oh
and he
yeah,
said that
yeah.
this was a better version than what he had in Beckme. And I don't know if that ever made it into any publication other than that, that one post. But that's certainly a better way of looking at it. And I think that it made that character class a little bit more thievy, and just related to because they should have skills of networking and they should have skills of appraisal and and selling stolen goods and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I think that was a much, combining everything up into categories like finger work, and so you could do all those things that require, a lot of dexterity and tying those other things like those social networking and those kinds of things, are more of a charisma skill, and just focusing on it that way and thinking about it that way. Appraisal is more intelligent, so you kind of broke up their skills into different categories of attribute thinking, so that you would be like, oh, all right, you know what, charisma might not be a dumb stat, for a thief now if you're looking
Right.
to, you're looking to haggle and sell stolen goods and stuff. So
Well, weapon mastery made up for a lot of stuff for
yeah.
thieves and a lot of the other classes, even wizards, But thieves with their backstab and being
Mhm.
able to have a weapon mastery also was killer, literally.
I like having character sheets though, Crafty. That I
You,
do like. I
you
like
like them
having the character.
online?
Yeah, I like character sheets online. You know, I just like them because you can, like, I can go in there after the game session and take a look at, my players, characters as they evolve as well, and just, from time to time, just remind myself of, some of the stuff that was going on. Um, so yeah, I like having character sheets online. They don't always work that well. That's the one thing I have, a problem with. But we do skill rolling and spell casting and everything off the character sheets on Roll 20. It's a nice feature when it's working right. To have it where the spell and its description will pop up when you cast the spell. So you don't have to dig in any kind of book to say, hey, what's the, how many segments does this take to cast? You see it right there on your screen. So it's definitely there are definitely good points to it.
Yeah, the
And
VTT that I've been looking at is the one that GM's Elcove uses, and that's the Foundry. And I'm
yeah,
finding that at least when I watch him use it, and when I've done a little bit of research on it, which has been none recently, but
mhm.
it seems to have, for me, kind of the best bang for buck. It isn't over bloated, but at the same time, it gives a bunch of features, especially if you import those templates or whatever they're called for the type of game that you're playing.
Right.
I
Yeah, I
just
think
can't
it's
get
a
over playing online, though. That's the thing that I still
yeah.
haven't.
Well, yeah, we don't all have the luxury of having a. I think the closest store to me is, like a gaming shop to me is probably about. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's a lot, maybe 10 miles away, but just the idea of having to schlep out there and to, put on a game and
Gas
the
prices.
yeah, well, just the whole idea of being in the middle of a shopping mall, because that's the closest game
Oh,
shop
wow.
to
Mhm.
me, is in the center of a shopping mall, and when you go in there, you don't see anybody playing anything but Magic the Gathering, so it'd be like, all right, so, I'm the only 55-year-old guy looking to run, a D&D game, and I'm busting out, a D&D first edition,
Yeah,
it's like,
you're getting
yeah,
out the weird stuff. Yeah, that's
yeah,
not.
it's like,
It's really hard to go into the store and play something that they don't sell.
yeah.
So they kind of have problems with it
Out
sometimes.
here, they do. They have like apparently the schools out here universities, high schools, so forth. They have a lot of gaming groups, and I've kind of debated whether I should check one. In fact, one of our viewers is right from very near here, and he plays. I think he's a teacher, and he plays at one of the smaller universities or community colleges out here. Thought about checking that out.
Yeah, a dice roller should be included in every communication app. Yep, it should be. But it's not here. They don't have it here either. So, but this is just, again, like StreamYard. I don't know if it has extensions. I think, Max, you've been using this longer than I have.
StreamYard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it have any extensions?
No.
No? Yeah,
No.
so that's what I thought.
Not that I'm aware of anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and I pay I pay for this. I pay the premium for this. So
Yep, same here.
yeah, I know it doesn't.
So what I like about StreamYard and why I pay that money, at least I did for one more year, maybe I'll do something differently next year, but is the fact that this is my job. What we're doing right here is my job. And so I look at it, so bang for a buck, I like what it offers. It doesn't have all this weird, I don't care about having 9,000 bells and whistles. I like the fact that it's simple. I can control it. I can have 10 people on. I can show my screen. We can have the comment integration is great. Now, fair. If you use Restream and OBS, you can do that. But what OBS doesn't do well, unless you spend a lot of time making those little templates, is having us 3 on here. Or wait, no, I want 4 people on here. Oh wait, I want 5 people on. Nope, I just want 1 person on here. You have to have a literal template for each one of those in OBS to make that happen. Here it just does.
Yes, Nordic Maelstrom, unless you are at least 150th level, you cannot have 50 pages of backstory. You also have to be within 5 years of your character's natural death.
No. I am writing everything from birth, how my mother's teats were, going on and how I was weaned, the diaper rash. I'm giving you everything. If I don't give you that, you won't really know who my character is.
Yes, I can't feel you. I can't feel your pain and your aspirations.
As a GM, can I use your mother's teats against you in some way?
Hey, if I write it in the backstory, you think you should? Well, no, I'm sorry, but of course, my mother died, and at the same time was possessed by the spirit of a lich. So she's actually a lich's phylactery right now. So no, you really couldn't.
Yeah, they're all dead. Okay, so your backstory is meaningless to me.
Oh, and of course, before I even became first level, I assassinated all the people who took out my family. So I should probably have 2 magic items. So let me write those down real quick.
And your character class is cleric, right?
So Crafty, I think that every form of communication should have the chicken dance macro attached to it. I'm probably not correct, but I'm thinking that World of Warcraft was the first one to have the chicken dance macro put in it. All right, let's see. I quit Magic the Gathering over WotC's woke bullcrap and history deletion stats. All right, sold all my cards and don't miss them one bit. I never played any kind of any of those card games. I did try Hearthstone on my iPad, and that wore really thin very quickly. But for the most
you're
part,
saying you don't play Magic the Gathering?
No, never played it.
You are the first person that I've come across that doesn't play.
Nope. Okay. I've never once played it. I tried watching someone playing it and just never played it.
I was out
once.
In 1992 or 93, I think it was 93, I was at War Games West in Albuquerque, and they wouldn't let us role play that day. I swapped between BattleTech and RPGA, D&D and so forth. And they had all the tables lined up, and they come in there and said, none of the normal games we played today, no vampire, no whatever you're doing, right? And they made us play this card game. I was the only one who came out of there that said this game is for 12-year-olds and it sucks. And to this day, I still believe that. And that was for beta testing, basically, the game. I mean, I'm sure the game was released, but they were talking about if they're going to do sales, so they're going to start selling it. I hated it from the second I first played it, and I still feel that way to this day. So I thought I was alone.
When it first came out, the guy that ran my gaming store, he gave me a deck, and I looked at it and went through it and read the rules, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. And that was it for me.
I mean, people gave me their cards
laying around somewhere.
See, now I gave mine away. So people used to give me all their doubles. Like, oh, you want to play with us? We all play Magic. I'm like, whatever. But man, these people get like, first of all, I don't like collectible games. If I want to buy something, I want to buy it, not randomly hope I get the thing I want. I'm not here to gamble, number one. And number two, if I'm going to play a game like that, it's kind of like it's hanging out with you guys. It's like role playing to some degree. It's like it's hanging out with you guys. It's playing casually. It's not being all intense and trying to spend 3 weeks figuring out what the best mathematics is to put together the perfect deck. I want to do that. Like, I just don't find that fun.
There's a third person now, Max.
All right.
God, my circle is growing.
People who have never played Magic the Gathering.
Never played it. Never played
it.
You are not alone.
Yeah.
I know quite a few people haven't played it, actually. Most of the people maybe they don't tell me, but most people I do RPGs with, I'm pretty sure do not play or haven't played Magic.
Well, I have friends that are like paid judges, like level 2 judges and so forth. One of them actually threw away his judgeship. Used to go to I can't remember all the specific terms. Somebody's going to correct me out there, but it's like it's not the worldwides, but it's like the nationals or something, whatever that level 2 nonsense means. He gave up his judgeship because of all the woke nonsense, and he used to get paid pretty well to get flied out to like Las Vegas and so forth to actually judge Magic the Gathering games.
The internet killed MTG for me.
Really, my local game store, and they promoted it, and they tried selling that stuff. And I know people went down there and played it, and they had big old things down at tournaments and stuff like that. But it seems like it never really crossed over too much with RPGs. The only pisser about Magic the Gathering back when it came out was that basically people stopped playing RPGs.
Yep.
That was the biggest thing. It's like, wow. All right, guys.
Well, when I was doing that, most of the players were vampire players, so they just went from vampire to LARPing, and then like the main BattleTech group changed from BattleTech to Magic.
Oh, that's a shame, actually. Yeah. Wow. Went from
a strategy
game to a card game. All right.
They'd like to collect. These are the same people that when BattleTech turned to Dark Age, loved it, and I wanted to melt every piece of plastic that was part of Dark Age.
Does that have little clickies or something?
Yeah, it was based on Mage.
Yeah.
It's based on Mage Knight.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I don't mind the Dark Age canon, but I never got into the.
I think they're. Oh my god! I hate the Republic of the Sphere.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? You know what? That's 100 years off from the main setting. Who cares?
Yeah, but see, my faction is screwed all the way until 3145 when we jab this penis into Federated Suns. Finally, you look at the map. That's what it looks like.
You know what, Max? We've talked about this, and my faction is Wrestlehog, who was only around for 8 years.
It's not a real faction. Setting. That was just people saying, "Oh, look at this." Really, you were a buffer state. You were just a buffer state. You were Yugoslavia.
Yes, for about 8 years, and then the clan came in and then wiped them out. You know.
Actually, fair. I liked Wrestlehog. At least I liked the way it was presented in the novels.
It is pretty cool. And you know what? The clans didn't wipe it out. They didn't culture. Well, I guess the clans culturally assimilated everybody, but yeah. But all the units and the structure of the army's still there. So
but it is kind of funny from Nordic to polar bears, huh?
Yeah,
I see a theme.
Yeah.
So here we're a little off topic here. So let's see. I love Van. Yeah. So, what the freak? Vampire the Masquerade. I was like, I'm trying to remember. I was like, what the heck is? That's another game I never played.
I love Mage. Not a vampire fan. Too emo for me, but I love Mage.
Yeah.
I bought it when it first came out. It's in a box in the garage, and I'll probably be throwing it away here pretty soon because it's not worth anything and no one plays it.
Sorry if I derailed your topic. I thought you were talking about minis. So
no, I'm just bullshitting tonight.
Oh.
So it's like a DM's roundtable, and we're not talking about DMing.
it's the Thursday night show stream.
Yeah, it's just a chill.
We can go back to DMing, sure.
Yeah, we can.
So I've got. We were talking about Shauner's stream where
right.
Satine was running 5th edition. So I got a question. I've never done 5th edition. I was totally new OSR when it came out. When 5th edition came out, and I've been doing that. So is the problem with 5th edition, or has it got so much cruft on it like 3rd and 4th has now, that it's become a problem as a game? Because I heard when it first came out, a lot of old grognards that didn't like 3rd or 4th, they jumped right on it because they said it felt like old AD&D. Basically, they didn't want to do
no, it's not in any way old school. It's better than 4th, but it's not, because 4th was strictly a video game. It was built to be a video game. I've never run 5e. If I ever ran 5e, I would have to strip so much out of it. I might as well just break out my 1st edition AD&D.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you have to modify it so much, just like what Gary Gygax used to say, you can modify the game, but if you modify it so much that it no longer looks like the same game, then why are you playing this to begin with? If I have to take out, and I'm not just talking about taking out like death saves or, I know a lot of people are huge fans of advantage and disadvantage and everything like that. It's unnecessary. I don't like having all of those, bound features and background features and this and that. The 6 or 7 times that I played 5e, easily 5 of them, the DMs stripped out all of the stuff that made it too damn easy, and so my takeaway was that if 5 out of 7 are saying like this is not a good feature of the game, and they were taking out core bits of it, then I was like, it's a terrible system, and then the 2 that left them in, or the 1 or 2 that left them in, was like, well, damn, if you have to throw so much at me, just to increase the risk, even slightly, then it's a broken system. When I planned on running 5th edition, and I was going to run just out of the essentials box, all right, and I started saying, well, let me see if I can craft using D&D Beyond. Let me create a couple of little scenarios just to practice using the system as a DM. And I says, all right, if I have a party of 5 first level characters, what kind of a scenario do I create? I said, all right, let me start with kobolds, because that's always like the
sure.
So I said, if I have 5 players, I'm going to put them against 1 lieutenant kobold, which was like maybe a 2 hit die kobold, and then 5 regular kobolds. Automatically made it like, red alert, super hard, like extreme difficult. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about extreme difficult? It's like, it's only the number of players plus 1. And it all of a sudden made it like an extreme difficult. Then I started tweaking around and doing other combinations. And every time I added number of characters plus 1 on the opposing side, even if it were just like 6 goblins against 5 player characters, it made it extremely difficult. I was like, and I started to see that trend, and it was like they built into their electronic system, so their digital, their digital format, the concept that no challenge should be read. You never put anything that is a true risk. And if that's the basic building block of what you want DMs of 5e to do, and it's being, actively pushed and encouraged by their own creation tool. I'm like, this is crap. It's not, it's not a game anymore. It's just, they're just trying to create a circumstance where people are going to, like Satine Phoenix's thing, right? Everybody's just chatting.
Right.
We're going to stay inside this tavern for 40 minutes and chat. I mean, they literally spent an hour doing character introductions.
Just introductions.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean,
wow.
Well, to be fair,
hour.
I've had that before in some games because some of my groups are heavy on the role play side, and as long as the players are having fun, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I mean, I get what you're saying with that regard, but I do push back a little bit when people start implying that, oh, that's too much role playing or that's wrong. But yeah, I mean, generally the way it's done, it's not about stories developing from play; it's about playing the stories.
Yeah, and that's what they were doing. They were,
Yeah.
They were doing they were doing a show. They weren't actually playing. They were doing a show.
That's the big
fair-
thing.
fair enough.
Yeah.
They're playing for us watching, and they're not really role playing.
Well, that's what I said about Critical Role when one of my players, when I first got back into the hobby, and one of my players was like trying to tell me how this is done, blah, blah, blah. And he kept talking about this Critical Role thing. I looked at it. First thing I thought was like, that isn't any game session I've ever been part of. And I do kind of heavy role playing in some of my groups but this is way too perfected. And I didn't know what it was at first, and come to find out, yeah, they're voice actors. It's probably scripted. If not, they're definitely on the same bullet points. So yeah, I mean, like if you think that's what role playing is, good luck finding that group.
I have an RPG beat up group in my area that I run, and people will want to get in, and they'll say, "Yeah, boy, I've been watching Critical Role. I'm really excited to try this." And I'm like, I hate to tell you, but a real gaming session is nothing
Right.
like that. Not even close to that. I mean, there may be some role playing. There's probably role playing, but it's not like that. I said those are professional
That's too
voice actors.
perfected.
And
yeah.
I swear to God, it's scripted because they're always on. The player's always happy and excited about it. And I said, no, none of those guys had a shitty day at work and came to play in your group. That's for sure.
Right.
So, or you didn't have a bad day at work and you're running a game,
And there's never that many people, even when you have a good role play group, there's never that many people at the table that can feed off each other that easily. I mean, they practice improv, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about that is about the advantage, disadvantage. I do like it conceptually, but I think I'm with DM Bluddworth on this. When I say conceptually, I mean, I think it's good for new players because it's really easy for them to understand. All right, it's kind of like the training wheels. I think of D&D 5e as the game with training wheels. Okay, we're going to make this real simple for you. No limitations, no whatever, because that's the thing for me. It's never going to be Dungeons and Dragons again until you bring back until you bring back race as class or you put racial limitations. When you say that dwarves can be wizards and gnomes can be paladins, it's not Dungeons and Dragons. F yourself off a bridge with Dan. I'm not taking that.
I've seen a lot of OSR, littler OSR games actually take the advantage disadvantage die.
I mean, it's simple. I get that.
I do too, actually.
It's like exploding dice or.
Well, you know what?
My favorite game's got exploding dice.
No, I'm saying it in a positive sense. Like, I like exploding dice. I like things where, if you're rolling, if you're rolling really well, you generate momentum. And I like that idea too. I know you're Max, I'm going to drive you crazy, but Conan 2D20.
Everybody's talking about that now. I quit. I'm never going to talk about the game ever in my life. All anybody's ever talking about. No, it's Modifius I hate, not the game.
I know, but you know what? Well, it's still an awesome game, and it for that setting, that is by far the best presentation of the Conan, of Conan in an RPG I've seen. All right.
Sure.
But hands down, the best. And the reason why is because its primary writers and designers for it were true Robert.
Well, they're
Howard,
required to be. Talk to
Conan,
Crafty about that. They're required by contract to be.
Yes. So it wasn't until that last freaking hardback that all of a sudden, you
Remove slavery. Well, at least the word.
Well, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. No, they removed mysterious, exotic, and martial arts.
Yep.
But
I heard they're removing slavery as a term. They're going to keep it in the game, but they're gonna remove that as a term as well.
Martial arts? You mean hand to hand?
Yeah, martial arts because
actual martial arts
because Mars is somehow something to do, the Roman god of war is something to do with Asia, and arts. Well, when you put Mars and arts together, they're just idiots.
It was weird. Anytime a company hires a sensitivity reader, expect their games to go downhill.
Wow.
It's like the kiss of death.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
That doesn't necessarily mean that it's appropriating a Far Eastern fighting technique.
Well, that's how they treated it.
Yeah, because when you think martial arts, what's the first thing you think about? You think about kung fu, and you think about Bruce Lee, and you think about Jackie Chan. So obviously, when did the Asians culturally appropriate Latin words? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it was just, but again, I go back to the system is by far the best system I've seen. If you're running it one and one, if you're running it with a DM or a GM and just one player, because it should be played solo. It should be, Conan spent his entire career solo. Right. The game works so well if you're playing it with just one player. Probably the best game I've seen. Balanced enough that one player can actually do everything. You don't have to give them a whole lot of supports, and that's because the way that the system is designed with that momentum, which is kind of like advantage dice, but you have to earn it. And there's different ways that you can spend that momentum where, the other thing I liked with it was displays, where not only do you gain momentum, but then if you do a series of momentous things, then you'll get a display. And a display is that cinematic thing. So not only do you cut the head off of somebody, but you've kicked it down the staircase, and now all the minions have their morale shattered by that display, and they run off, or you do something very Conan-esque where, all of a sudden now your momentum allows you to cut 27 27 peasants to pieces, without it even, and you walk away with 1,000 cuts and you're still, almost perfectly fine afterwards. It's just, the system just plays really well for that. And that's because of the momentum system. Now I dropped the Doom system because Doom is kind of the opposite, where the GM now has, because the players have been jerking around. And so now I can give you penalties because I've accumulated a Doom pool. And it's like, no, if they're jerking around, I'm just going to throw them something that's going to hang them up. I don't need a pool to do that. I'm just going to do that just to, force them forward, so, but, I'm a big fan of it. It's one of my top 4 favorite RPGs. So I'm getting ready to do that video from Vince's, the Evil DM's prompting. So that's one of them. I'll
DM James is going all in on Conan 2D20 now.
He has been.
Yeah.
I want to get some more Free League games promoted out here. I'm going to have to next year. We have the Year of Palladium books this year. I think next year I'm going to have to do the Year of Free League. Because I want to get more people playing Forbidden Lands. And by the way, talking about Free League, if anybody does Bundle of Holding, there are two bundles on Bundle of Holding right now for Mutant Year Zero. Which includes all this stuff. I highly recommend.
I know, Crafty Matt, you spent a lot of time pushing Conan 2D20 as well.
Yeah, I was actually paid to buy the Conan 2D20 book, and within a few months I have to do a review of it myself. But now that everybody's doing a review, I'm like, all right.
No, you have to give it a try. And,
come on, Max. You're afraid you're going to like it or something, man?
Well, no. It's not that. It's I've never read a 2D20 book. Well, no, that's not true. I started reading the Star Trek Adventures book, and then I wanted to light it on fire.
I realize
no,
I realize mostly your problems with the company and not.
Yes, so absolutely,
Yeah.
and I don't want to give Modiphius any money ever. I have the Mutant Chronicles book, which I haven't started reading yet, but it is not written in woke language. It actually uses real pronouns, not they in the singular, so that's good. But it's also an older book, and so I was going to take a look at that. And then one of the guys on our Discord, he said, "Here, I'm going to give you some money, and I want you to review Conan 2D20." So what my plan is to actually do Mutant Chronicles first. And the reason for that is to get an understanding of what's going on. So if I screw it up, I'm not screwing up the one he wants me to review. Then do the Conan 2D21 after that.
Well, when you do the Conan one, I would certainly love to join you in that. In that thing. I will have to start running some more of it myself, and
I'm sure Crafty's going to be on there to correct all my mistakes too. So
and we'll get us all like DM James, Crafty, everyone that's a huge fan. We'll do the 4-on-1.
No, that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
I'll be like, all right, now to make a character, you do that. That's not how you do it.
No, you know what? Making a character, they have one of the best character creations online. That's a free character creation, and it works really, really well. Phenomenally well. Makes it so much easier than flipping through the pages. That's another strong point that Modiphius hit it out of the ballpark with that. Plus their art and their, just the construction of the books and everything. Top notch. It wasn't until the last fucking book out of 20 books that they suddenly decided we're going to hire a sensitivity reader, and then they held off sending out wave 4, of their Kickstarter, just so that they could do the half-assed, because they didn't even change every instance of mysterious or exotic or martial arts. They only did it in a few little spots here and there, but it was just such a ridiculous thing. I'm glad that I printed out the PDF before they changed it, and so I have the original and I have that, but it really doesn't interfere at all with the actual gameplay of that particular one anyway. So it's not a big deal. It really isn't.
I mean, as far as the game goes, I agree with you, but I just can't support companies that go that route. If that is your modus operandi now, then you can take somebody else's money, not mine.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they don't produce a truly woke, thing. It's like they haven't gone evil hat. What I'm saying, it's like I wouldn't give them a penny. But Modiphius, depending on the other thing that Modiphius does well is they do snatch up some pretty cool IPs. And, although I think that they're spending a little bit too much time putting out Cthulhu bullshit that nobody asked for, they're doing Cthulhu Rome, I believe. So it's kind of a weird combination. They should have just gone all out with a true Fallout RPG would have been awesome. But unfortunately, they gave us another Cthulhu thing. So
I picked up their cult book here last week, and you know what? The quality of the book is awesome. The art is awesome. It has a freaking ribbon freaking marker in it. Mm-hmm. I'm looking. I haven't dove into it yet, so I'm looking. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty curious how the 2D20 system works with that. Since I've got the very first edition of that game ever.
Oh yeah, Blade Runner is being put out by Free League.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I was never a Blade Runner fan. I'll take my nerd cred away if you want, but I think Blade Runner is boring.
We'll take it away. It's not boring, Max, but you can do Blade Runner in any damn cyberpunk game.
Sure,
that's what they're made for.
No, you know what? Actually, Crafty, please tell, because it's one of the only Free League games I didn't back. because I like Free League. If Crafty tells me that this is basically just a cyberpunk game in the skin of Blade Runner, I may get it because I would like to have another cyberpunkish type games, because I think Shadowrun is, well, I like old Shadowrun. I don't care about the modern stuff. I think old Shadowrun needs to be updated and is a little too dice pool heavy. And I think, while I like Cyberpunk 2020, I think that it's missing some pieces that I would like. So I didn't think of it that way. That was a good point that you made there. I like that.
I get what you say about Blade Runner. A lot of people thought it was boring as hell. And myself, I can just sit down and let the visuals just wash over me more than anything else.
I don't know. I fall asleep during the movie, and I'm not saying that disparagingly. I really do. Like, I can watch 2001 Space Odyssey with a half-hour introduction that could just be cut out of the stupid movie and still love it. But I can't watch Blade Runner like without falling asleep. Like, if I've got insomnia, Blade Runner.
Sure. I've heard it from a lot of people. I get it. Well, I don't get it because I love it, but I understand it.
All right, let's see. The readers could only change Modifius's own words and the mechanics. Yes, I know. That was the big thing. And I give both Jason Dural and Chris Lights a lot of credit for the fact that they both quit over the changes that were being made. Yes, both lead writers quit Modifius because they argued that, Modifius basically said that they were creating, they were creating Conan in the spirit of how Robert E. Howard, wanted to present the characters, and present the world. And, once they started doing that sensitivity reading and they removed, all they really did was remove the words. They didn't do the they, them, or any of the pronoun stuff. All they did, the world hadn't gone off that deep edge yet. All they did was they removed mysterious, exotic, and martial arts.
That is so weird.
In a few little instances there, you got to remember, it happened around the same time that Oriental Adventures came under fire by the non-Asian Canadian named Daniel. So it's
from Canada. He's not Asian.
He's not Asian, and his first name is Daniel. So he's appropriating whatever.
If you remember, my wife sat down for 10 episodes to talk about him, so she still gives me crap about that. She was not happy. She doesn't like gaming, so she was not happy about that. But we brought my wife on, who's actually Japanese, to correct the record on some couple of wannabe Asians. But it's mysterious, it's exotic, it's mystic. That's a word you're not allowed to use anymore. And there's one more that fits, and I can't remember what it is off the top. Celestial. You can't say celestial anymore because it's offensive to China. Because the Chinese have the celestial throne.
Except they don't. They're all damn commies, so they don't have any celestial anything.
Fair, but it's used. Those terms are apparently offensive. I say my next role playing game is going to be Winnie the Pooh, and it's going to feature Xi Jinping or whatever the fuck his name is that banned Winnie the Pooh in China.
See, that's the problem. You got these extreme lefty Karens and Kevins to getting all upset for everybody else. Getting upset for all the poor people apparently. Yep, that's what it was.
Yeah, denizens of the swamp. Yep. I should find that. I should find that on eBay just to.
I've got the minis. I don't have the box anymore.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of Gamma World minis from around the same time, actually, that they came out with. Yeah.
The game I never got a real chance to play.
It was the first game I actually played and ran. First real RPG game I played and ran in.
I've been trying to find a way to get back into Star Wars D6, but not in the Star Wars universe. I just want to use the rules for it. I followed. I don't know what it was, but I didn't really like them growing up, and now that I got into it, No, Mr. Max, he's yours. He's yours. He has your citizenship.
You must own him.
Well, but wait, isn't Mr. Max Quebecois? You're not Canadian either. You're pseudo-French. You're pseudo-French. Oh.
So Max, I thought someone had stripped out the system from the game from Star Wars, and you can just get a like Space D6 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there is one out there. I'm actually utilizing the Star Wars D6 rules right now to incorporate into my own game. I'm basically combining the Free League system and the Star Wars D6 system into a workable combination mashup thereof with a few tweaks of my own.
Okay.
How is your RPG coming along, Max?
Which one?
The one you've been writing for.
So I'm on game number 5 now, and it's coming along pretty well. I actually have I have to finish up a small part and then have Heathen Dog look it over because I'm stuck on one thing that's kind of preventing me from going forward. But this one's coming on a lot better. The Palladium rewrite, that one died because of scope creep. I'll get back to that one someday, but I ended up changing the game too much for it to actually be a Palladium game anymore. So I kind of asked myself, why am I doing this? I wrote about 1,000 pages in that game, and I have about 300 that are usable, and I stopped writing it. And I still had a ton more to go. But to know what my goal is I want to make a universal sci-fi game that you can play a setting, say like The Expanse, or you can play a setting like Star Wars, or you can play Battlestar Galactica, or you can just play Earth and Mars Hate Each Other, or you can play, whatever, you can do 1950s pulp if you want. I want all that in a simple system. The D6 came to me. I'm liking the way the writing's going so far. And I'm actually pretty happy with this one, other than it's not done and I get burned out very quickly because my brain works a lot faster than my fingers. And after a few days of that, I'm just like, I already thought about this. I don't want to write anymore. So I'm intentionally working very slowly now so that I don't get frustrated.
That's one of the things about the D6 Star Wars is that it's scaled really well from characters all the way up to starships as far as combat and how your dice rolls work and stuff like that.
It has some problems that I'm running into right now in terms of like, where does that scaling end, so to speak? So like if you're a character with like 14 dice in a skill, somebody with 3 dice in a skill has no chance whatsoever. And while but that's a very D&D-esque idea, I like the Earth Dawn style more with like the exploding dice where, look, I may have a very minuscule chance of having this happen, but if my dice explode a bunch of times, I could really be a nobody and stab a dragon in the eye.
Sure.
But again, so I'm trying to incorporate something like that. And how I'm doing this, I'm doing that through the Free Leagues concept. If you do the Year Zero engine at all, of the pushing the roll, and I'm tweaking how Free League uses pushing the roll for this game. So.
That's where the Savage Worlds really got into it. Higher step characters weren't invulnerable to anything. They had to watch out all the time. And Savage
Worlds is somewhat similar on a less expansive scale, but it's actually similar to the step system for Earth Dawn.
Yeah,
which is my absolute favorite system ever. I'm not saying the game is my favorite, but that system. I love that system. And by the way, 2 of my games that I'm writing that I haven't worked on in probably about a year are using the step system. They're just 2 different generations of it.
Earth Dawn and the step system was the first game that just totally clicked in my head.
You and I are going to be best friends now. I was an official playtester for 2nd edition. I was 3rd edition. I didn't have much to do with. 4th edition I backed until unfortunately Harrison and Weeks, the guy who developed the magic system and the line developer, got crazy woke and changed the writing style in like the 3rd book they put out, and I won't buy their stuff anymore.
I'm aware of the editions. I've only got 1st edition stuff. I got everything for it, but I remember we were on the stream and you mentioned the 2nd edition skills, and I've got it written down here, so I'm going to have to pick up 2nd edition for the skills.
Yeah, the 2nd edition does a lot of things. Now, technically speaking, some of the stuff came in 1st edition, and DM Bluddworth, if I'm hijacking your stream, cut me off.
No. Keep on going.
It has this thing called de-patterning, which if you have too many magic items, you can melt into goo.
Wow.
It just disassembles your pattern. Like it's got astral clouding, which is a different way of having a horror corrupted area. Like it just does this weird stuff. It's like, go away, get that stuff out of here. It's like nice little thumbprint. But what it really did well, and here's how I'll say it for the skills. And this is why I love the skills in second edition. First of all, skills in first edition were barely even acknowledged.
Right.
I mean, to be fair. But in second edition, a talent. So you've got the melee weapon talent, something really simple for everybody to understand. If you got the melee weapon talent, it's magical. You can pick up a sword, you can pick up an axe, you can pick up a dagger. It doesn't matter. It's a melee weapon. You have the magical ability to power it, right? Well, in first edition, the skill kind of worked the same way, just with the magic bonus behind it. Well, now the way second edition does it is like, no, you have to pick a weapon. It's almost like a non-weapon proficiency from D&D. So you have a skill in longsword, you have a skill in troll sword, you have a skill in a pole arm of some sort. So it really focuses you and kind of shows the difference between this is what magically powered characters do versus, yeah, I can use a weapon. I've trained in this for a long time, and I liked that distinction. Some people didn't. They thought that it's just non-weapon proficiencies from D&D. Now I have to take 17 skills in order to use different weapons. Well, that's why you want the talent, dum-dum.
Well, that's what people in the game world that aren't the player characters that aren't infused with magic. That's how they do stuff. They have to do stuff in the normal way. They have to learn sword like we do in our world. Whereas your player characters are all magically imbued, and they do. Even the thieves. The thieves don't necessarily have a lockpick. They can magically undo locks.
Yes. But to do that, you have to play within the discipline. You actually have to stay true. And this is why I love
your class, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. But you have to have a right mindset. And I said this, I think, on the stream yesterday too. A sword master must be a showman. How you handle that, and I won't go deeply into it, but how you handle that is your business. But you must, no ifs, ands, or buts, be a showman, or you start suffering talent crises and so forth. Now, what third edition did, third edition started to homogenize the disciplines, where instead of having a list, you could pick and choose talents. And so all of a sudden you could have another mancer that was just as good as being a weaponsmith, almost as the weaponsmith, just they weren't discipline talents. So I wasn't a fan of that. Fourth edition, unfortunately, kept that, but did tone it down a little bit.
I like it how they came out. They actually came out with a faceted describing the classes. And
Adam's Way. That's the name of the book. Yep, the Adam's Way, the best book ever written.
Yeah. No, that was awesome because it told you that not only is your character class basically what you do, but it's a way of life.
Yes.
For you. Yeah. It was really cool.
That book.
The game is really cool. The setting's cool. Mm-hmm. Being able to thread weapons and stuff like that, or being able to thread to other people and stuff like that in your group. You get bonuses.
So that was my second thing that really latched me on to Earthdawn back in 92, 93 when it was just a pamphlet.
We're totally taking over the stream here. I'm so sorry.
Still gaming topic, right? Is the fact I love the way magic items work because you didn't just grab it and have a +5 sword. You had to learn about it. You had to bind it to you. I just absolutely love that premise completely.
You had to go and study and find out what happened. Actually find out what happened to the hero that died that had that thing and actually go. For
some weapons, you have to learn where it was forged from, learn what dragon scale was used in its construction. Learn the history of it. I love that conceptually. Hey, by the way, it makes your troubadours useful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Shut up now. Sorry, DM James.
I felt
Bluddworth.
I so fell in love with the game, and ran it for guys and they loved it. So
that's great. I very, very rarely meet people who have run it. A lot of people who've talked about it or have seen it. A few people have played it, but very few people that I know that have run it. So I'm glad to see there are others out there. I will tell you this at a mechanics level. I have to grudgingly say that 4th edition is the cleanest edition of the game. Josh and Morgan them did a good job in making it the cleanest edition of the game. And if you just get the player's handbook and the game master guide, so the first 8 circles, you've got a great game. Once you see the language changes of the companion and the subsequent books, then it gets unfortunately a little weird. But my only complaint about 4th edition is if you remember 1st edition, you remember the armor defeating hits, right?
Yes.
There are no armor defeating hits in 4th edition anymore. Well, there's a good side and a bad side to it. The good side is this. If you're doing something investigative, you can just say you get a success level every 5 above the die, your target number. So if your target number is 10, you get a 10, you got a success. A 15 is 2 successes. 20, you see obviously a nice easy pattern. That's great for investigative because you're not locked into 4 poor, normal, good, excellent, and extraordinary, and then done. So I like that conceptually for the skills. But for combat, what it does, and it really slows it down, is it says for every success level, add +2 to your damage step. Well, you got new people trying to play the game. They're trying to fumble through the dice that they're trying to roll. It's like, and it's like, okay, +2 steps. Wow, that's an average of +2 points of damage because steps equal the average dice roll of that step. Well, that's lame. But when something's got an armor rating of 10 and you roll an armor defeating hit, you're dancing at the table.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to shut up now because I'll keep talking about
sure.
this. Not my stream.
Let's see. So, does anyone know of any game engine that would be good for using running historical games? Lion and Dragon. All right, which is
Pendragon?
No, Lion and Dragon.
What part of history are you looking to run? Are you looking at medieval history, Renaissance, 1800s, 1700s?
Well, yeah, I guess it depends. So I just recently picked up Sword and Caravan. All right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And haven't really dug into it yet. I got a couple more days of work left. So
Casimir Archie B. Pundit just did a video on that. He just got his copies apparently.
Yeah.
So my question is: there actually a system that's like I don't think I've ever run across a system that's perfect for anything. It's about the type of setting you're trying to do.
Well, Sword and Caravan uses Lion and Dragon as its system. All right. But you can use any OSR system using it because Sword and Caravan is a source book, a setting book more so. But what I really like about it is the fact that it's covering the Silk Road, and it's so it's obviously set during the Crusades, or you could do Marco Polo, you could do whatever you want to do along that Silk Road. There's plenty of setting information in there, and like I said, I still have to dig into it. One of my favorite, or probably one of my favorite, I'd say my top 3 favorite Robert E. Howard characters is oh my god, I got El Barak. All right. And I always wanted to try to put together at least a setting where then I could take the Conan 2D20 and move it into into that setting, which is like 1920s Afghanistan, kind of, setting that he created for that character. And although he had some of the, very, mythical type creatures like ghouls and things like that as well. So he still had that, that kind of fantasy, semi-Cthulhu kind of vibe to it as well. Some magic, like he had his, he had those kind of like the Fu Manchu kind of, vibe to it as well. That would be horrible appropriation today. So that's what I was really looking forward to for, this Sword and Caravan. So it's definitely something that I would like to jump into. So I think any game system, Call of Cthulhu, you could run historical games in. It's
that's a Chaosium system, and that's there's Crafty post in here, and like I was talking about Pendragon, it's just Chaosium system. I think it's one of the best ones for a universal type system out there.
It really depends on what you want out of your game system. How do you want your game to play out? Do you want it to be more fantastic? Do you want it to be gritty? Basic role playing, the Chaosium system will give you gritty or fantastic. I know Sean's way into Traveler for 2D6. It's pretty simple, but Cepheus engine, they've got a lot of settings, and it uses basically the Traveler system, 2D6 system. That's pretty gritty. So no nonsense. You could run Savage Worlds. You can get Savage Worlds and run a historical setting. It's going to be more gamey, and it's going to be a little more fantastical. Just because of
the hero system
blow up and stuff. Hero. Yep. It really depends on what kind of feel you want out of the game when you're playing it.
Are you the type of person that thinks that the game system affects the feel of the game?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and the reason
Sure.
I asked this, one of the things that we've been talking about, back and forth with some people recently, is some people like Savage Worlds Rifts, and I can't stand it. Not because I have anything against Savage Worlds, but it's not Rifts. It doesn't feel like Rifts. It doesn't play like Rifts. It doesn't. I mean, just because it has juicers and pyromancers and so forth in there doesn't make it Rifts to me. That Palladium system is just so. Love it or hate it, it's just so is what it is that it gives Rifts the actual feel, where Savage Worlds could never emulate that. It's just not the same.
We've had this discussion before, and I think that's where we all brought it up. And as far as Rift goes, I don't think there's anything special about it that it can't be played in Savage Worlds. But then we talked about Earth Dawn, and there's no way Earth Dawn can be played with any other system besides its own damn system.
Do you know there's a Savage Worlds edition and a Pathfinder edition of Earth Dawn,
yes,
right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. I know.
And but that's actually where I learned that was with Earth Dawn, when I saw that there's a Savage. Now I would say that the Savage Worlds version does better than the Pathfinder version because it still almost looks like the step system to some degree. But that's the thing, is a lot of these games, I think that the system matters for the feel of how it's played, whether it's how deadly it is, or the things that you can get by with, whatever it happens to be in the game. And the Palladium system is just so different from anything else. And I get it. Some people don't like it. I don't think it's 100% great system, but it's certainly, Savage Worlds could make a world like that. I love the Savage Worlds unique settings.
Sure,
the superhero setting, it's got its obviously Deadlands, everybody knows that one, but it's unique. I think it worked when it's built from the ground up for Savage Worlds. I like it, but games that are ported over there now, they've just done Battlelords of the 23rd Century Savage Worlds edition, and like how are you going to have the crunch? The whole point of Battlelords is to be the crunchiest game on the dang planet.
Yeah.
Well, they also have Solomon Kane,
but that's directly Savage World. That isn't from another system, is it?
No, it's directly,
The ones that go directly to Savage Worlds are darn good. I like them.
Yeah.
I just don't think it emulates other settings from other systems well.
Mm-hmm. So Nordic comes in here. I'm looking more for an engine that will run a dice pool system and skill system. I don't want a class system. Well, that's
Year Zero engine.
Yeah.
Cepheus engine,
Yep.
Cepheus, one of the Cepheus games, they have some historical stuff, and you can use just about anything from any of those to run a historical game. Historical game's easy.
Yeah.
If you know the history, you can run a historical game. You can use any system, but
any generic system.
100%
agree.
But a dice pool, geez, you could
Year Zero, the old D6.
Mm-hmm.
You could create your own. Apocalypse World thing. That's a little more.
Oh, ouch!
I know.
An old Shadowrun knockup. GURPS. Well, GURPS really isn't a pool though, but yeah,
it's not a dice pool.
D6s. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Cepheus isn't. It's 2d6, and neither is BRP. Chaosium. That's just
percentile. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I still shill for the Year Zero engine, because Free League is going the way that I don't like. They're just not blatant about it like some of the other ones. But I really do like the Year Zero engine setting. So if you like dice pools, just find any one of the Year Zero engine games. I don't know if Blade Runner is Year Zero engine. I do know that the One Ring is not. Twilight 2000 is not. It's close to it, but not right. But like Forbidden Lands, Vaesen, Mutant Year Zero, Coriolis, Alien RPG, those are all Year Zero engine games. If you like that, then there's a good dice pool system for you. If not, well, your mileage may vary.
So here you go. Dice pool system, is it just a fad? Why would you do a D6 dice pool system instead of just doing a 2D6 system?
Because I like dice pools.
Sure,
I like the feel of clickety clack math rocks.
Sure, rolling a bunch of dice. Yep, I feel your pain or your pleasure. I use these big old casino dice when I roll my.
I have a big set, not quite that big, but I have a set of big dice that I use. They're just one set. They're jumbo dice that I use when I'm playing, because I look, I'm going to roll my dice and you're going to see what it is. I get two hands out and roll. That's not quite that big, but I can't stand it when people come to my table and they got these little tiny miniature dice that you can't read, and then they got designs all over them. No, you're not rolling that at my table.
It's like, what the hell did you roll?
I think it's a 1 or a 5. Like, it's that much of a disparity.
I mean, GURPS GURPS is fine. You know what? GURPS is fine as GURPS Lite. I couldn't get into all the extras. That was just too much of a pain for me, so I never ran it or played it. But GURPS Lite looks lovely.
So,
quite frankly,
recently, I've been thinking more and more about playing GURPS. I played it one time back in the early 90s. I don't remember much about it. I just remember rolling, I think it was 2d6, 3d6, whatever it was. And so I was thinking about getting back into it or actually looking at it. But in the last like month, maybe 2 to 3 months, I get nothing but a whole bunch of GURPS hate. Like, where's this GURPS hate coming from? Like people like, oh, GURPS sucks for everything, blah, blah, like it's only good for setting information. It's not a good game. Like, I don't understand where that's coming from. So, I mean, what can you explain to me that says why GURPS isn't a good game? All right.
No, I think GURPS was a good game for its time. I don't know if I could get back into playing that again.
I mean, does it have any inherent problems with it? Like
no,
people talk about the builds, like the
Just,
builds are bad or something. Like you can break it, but I thought Hero System was much more complicated than GURPS in that regard.
Oh yeah, no, it was certainly it was a much simpler version than some of the other games. I think it's easier than Palladium.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think it's easier than Palladium.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
people bring it up, and of course they bring it up for all time because it was kind of a quietly popular game, semi-popular.
Mm-hmm.
But just recently within our circle here, anytime you bring up GURPS, like, oh, GURPS sucks, don't use that for anything. Okay.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't suck. The problem with the problem with GURPS is that they have so many systems that you can actually add on and play the game, and it seems like GMs wanted to add everything, play with everything.
So scope creep.
Yeah.
So if you get a new guy in there, I knew a guy who was running a GURPS game. It was a weird time travel kind of weird thing with Romans and stuff. But one of my friends went over there to roll up a character, and he said it took so long. It took like 2 hours to create this character, and he had to count. He said the worst part was he had to get the weight for every bullet he had for a gun. And I'm like, that sounds awful.
Yeah, what?
Well, compare it to Rollmaster. I mean, Jesus Christ.
but still, this was him and the GM. This wasn't a whole group of players, just him and the GM. He says, I was there for 2 hours. It's like, wow.
The first time I created a character for Rollmaster, I believe after about 3.5 hours, I had enough. I left like 200 points on the table. I said, I don't even care. I was like, I don't even care. Let's just play this damn game. And then we started playing, and I went through one combat, and it's like I swung. I thought I hit. Then you have to go to that other chart that shows all the various different ranges. It turned out that you hit, but you did 0 damage. Because on another like scale, I got to the point where I was like, please let this character die, just so I can step out of this game and never play it again. It was excruciating. It was by far, if I had to pick my top 4 favorite games and my bottom 4 games, Rollmaster might be the worst game I've ever played.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely the worst game I've ever played.
I never bought it. I've had copies of it, and it doesn't read very bad. But yeah, I never tried playing it or played in a game. Yeah,
just try character creations. You'll give up right there. It's just that.
What makes it so bad? Because they're a character, like I've done the old Traveler thing a long time ago, just to see if I get a character character creation. I used to love the old version of Twilight 2000, where you went through these life paths and you're finally like, you got yourself to be a grizzled veteran, but you came out with like 5 wounds, couldn't walk straight, whatever else. Like I enjoyed that kind of stuff.
It took too long to spend all of those character
It's
creation points.
right. In Traveler, you're just
It was,
rolling down charts. We're talking about just point build.
Yeah.
You just get a load of points, and as you get all the stuff, so here, build your character. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it literally took hours.
Throw a ton of stuff at you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, this is crazy. I've never encountered. I've heard of crunchy games. I mean, I liked V&V first edition. It was like, calculate, calculate carrying capacity, and it's like, multiply by pi for some things. It was like, it's like, in comparison, nothing compared to how excruciating character creation was.
I might have to actually get that game and compare it to 6th edition of Battlelords of the 23rd Century. Because to me, that is my top end of absolute crunchiness for a game.
I've got a copy of Battlelords, and I must have an earlier one because it's not that complicated.
Well, the character creation isn't that complicated. Develop a suit of armor.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'll have to break out the book.
You don't have the most recent one that just came out like a year ago, 7th edition.
Oh no, I bought
stay
it
away
way
from it.
back in the
Stay
day.
away from it. Woke, and I got into an argument with one of the writers of the game.
I think I might have I've either got a 1st or 2nd edition.
Oh wow, yeah. I've only played 4th and 6th edition. I liked them both.
No, it read like it's just a straight up, let's go beat the crap out of stuff, and these are your characters.
Well, the guy's like former Canadian. I don't know if he's special forces or not. I heard a rumor he was, but he's a Canadian military guy who apparently, and if I'm wrong about this, is just what I heard, but apparently got injured or something like that, and just decided to make a game that was as gritty as he could make it in a sci-fi with slapstick setting.
Well, it's definitely combat because you're part of a combat group of guys that don't even freaking like each other. These races hate each other.
Oh my God, the Fentari! Yeah, I don't want to hijack again here.
It's pretty hilarious. It's pretty great.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. So D&D
or anything.
Well, and even playing the game, it's not called Chartmaster for nothing.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, he actually played in the game. He said it wasn't bad because the GM had actually printed out all the weapons, because each weapon has its own little chart you have to roll on, and he printed out all the weapons charts and gave them to the players. And he did a lot of paperwork basically before the games. He said it ran okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Not great. Okay.
Yeah, if you spend 27 hours to prepare for, one 1 hour scenario, that's okay. It's like it was just brutal.
Well, that's what he told me. He says, yeah, each weapon has a big old chart to roll to see what it does. I don't know if it's against armor. Like I said, I'm not familiar, but I'm like, that sounds awful. He says, well, no, he had them all. He printed them all out for us. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, what I didn't like about it was, and I'm trying to recall exactly. So, like I said, once you actually hit the target, then you had to roll on another massive chart to see how effective the hit was. Before you even get to like doing damage or anything, and it was like 90% of the time that you hit, you still did no damage. And I was like, this is. It just didn't make any sense whatsoever.
That doesn't make sense. So one of the things I'm actually working on in the game that I'm writing right now, like if you remember the Star Wars D6 system, you had the evasion and or the dodge mechanic, whatever, where it's like, no matter what, if you evade, fine, you didn't get hit. But if you were hit, even if your resistance roll is higher than the damage roll, something still happened to you because the guy gets credit for hitting you. And that's one of the things that I'm putting into my game as well. So, I mean, if you've got a chart that says you hit, but what? There better be some effect there. Because if there's nothing, what's the point of me rolling this hit?
Crafty Matt, I got that game, and I thought it was pretty neat. That's actually a slimmed down system from the Phoenix, whatever it is, that really highly weird combat role-playing game that came out.
Is he talking about Aliens, the Free League Aliens? Or
No. This is the one that came out back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've never played it, but I heard nothing but horror stories about it. So if you've got a different opinion, I'm interested.
I never played it, but I read it and was going to run it, but I couldn't find anybody who wanted to play it.
I'll beat your Starfleet battles. I raise you with Federation and Empire. Look it up. It makes Starfleet battles like yeah.
you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to take Starfleet battles and actually do role playing. We'll just play Prime Directive.
There you go. Or Star Trek 3 Combat Simulator from FASA.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
I love that game. I know a lot of people crap on it, but I like that game.
Yeah, it's fun from Leading Edge Games. They also did Lawnmower Man RPG. They bought up some IPs. They bought up IPs. I don't know how they got them, but they did. So
okay, let me ask you. I don't know. Maybe I've asked this to DM Bluddworth before. I'm not sure, but I'll ask you both. You guys, do you guys enjoy playing established IPs? And I don't mean like a setting like Greyhawk or Dragonlance. I mean like I want to play The Expanse. I want to play Firefly. I want to play Conan or whatever. Do you actually enjoy playing in IPs? Because to be upfront, I do not.
I don't like playing in IPs. No, I won't run a game in an IP.
It depends on which one. I mean, I love Conan, so
we know you love Conan.
Yeah. I'll play Conan. I mean, the earliest IP I ever played with, James Bond. James Bond Victory Games. There was a great system, a lot of fun. Really captured that IP, extremely well. I'll never forget one time I used. I think I was strapped to. I think we were in the Goldfinger. We were doing the Goldfinger one, so I was strapped to the. I was strapped to the table, and I had my character like lift his shoe off his heel, so it was just hanging on my toe, and I flipped the shoe across the room to hit the switch that turned, that unlocked the straps on the table so that I could get up before the laser beam, hit my crotch, and, my DM was like, or GM, I should say, he's like, all right, you're going to have to spend like 2 fame points in order to do that, and, it just like such a ridiculous, like impossible thing, and it worked and, just really captured.
Did the game master do the monologue? Mr. Bond, you thought you had me. But
no, those. If you're familiar with those things, I mean, yeah, they every adventure came in like those little mini box sets, So they had all that kind of stuff. They had the dialogue from the movie. They had the, various, little excerpts that they could read and stuff.
See, maybe that's one of those
handouts and everything.
So
yeah, if you've ever seen them, if you ever looked at them or seen like an unboxing, there's handouts like dossiers that they hand out to you and everything. I mean, it was done extremely well.
I picture what you're saying right there to be almost like playing in the Star Wars IP. You don't have to fight Vader. It's so big. You can be part of Corsac. You can do so much of what you want in there. But so many of these IP games, just the way they're written, even if they could be bigger, seem to focus on whatever that IP is specifically. And the players, of course, like, I thought we were playing Firefly. I want to only deal with the Reavers, and every now and again I forget what the name of the empire there was called, but that's it. And have the same exact adventures and bad Chinese that the Firefly cast had. And it's like, no, like you're doing something totally different. Like some of them just get so locked in to the small scale of the IP. Now that what you said about James Bond actually sounds like, hey, you don't have to be 007. You can be 014 or whatever on a whole different mission.
Yeah. You were never actually playing 007. He was an NPC that you might come across, but very rarely anyway. But you were your own 00 agent acting in the same movies, or your GM was creating his own adventures too, which were pretty easy to do once you've read through 1 or 2 of the adventure setups and everything. And you can produce all the same stuff. You can produce the same kind of handouts and things like that also, because it's set in the real world. So you could do those kinds of things. It was a really, really good system.
It's kind of like what Crafty said there as well. Like if
Yeah.
you have a big IP, I think it's possible, but some of these
Yeah.
other ones that are just tiny and they're only known for one season of a show or something.
Yeah, it depends on the game company producing it. Victory Games was top notch. I mean, they were producing really good stuff.
They had good games.
Yeah, they had good games. In many ways, kind of better than what TSR was putting out with some of their, their side project kind of games. Do I think like a game company like Modifius or Free League can take IPs like that and produce something really good? Yes, I think they can. I don't think
Free League's
can.
with the One Ring and now with Blade Runner. So
yeah, so
I mean, I've got the Expanse RPG, and people watch the show and they love the show, but there's not a whole lot out for that game that's really interesting.
See, I've heard people say they absolutely love the Expanse RPG, and other people say it's the most god-awfully written. Like, I never hear anything in the middle there. And Killraven, by the way, you can only play Supernatural one way, and it goes like this. We're brothers, man. We're brothers, and brothers stick together, man. Or you're my brother. Brothers.
Yeah.
But, I just played Supernatural.
But the Expanse, people watch the show, and there's the characters in the show. And if you read the books, there's a lot of background in the books. Mm-hmm. Because I guess it was from a D20 modern game that they played. Actually, they invented the setting, whoever the GM was. But you know what? When you read the books and watch the show, those characters, they're doing the stuff, and they're the only people in the whole setting doing the stuff. So it's really hard to get a group of players together to do the same thing or something.
Yeah, because there really aren't too many side stories going on in The Expanse. It's pretty much just the one main story.
I mean, you could do other stuff, but if you're watching the show or reading the books, you're not going to be doing the same stuff that those guys are doing, and that's what you want to do.
Right, exactly. Now, something as big as Star Wars, you can get by with that because, yeah, sure, they might be blowing up the Death Star, but there's still, hundreds of other Star Destroyers out there. There's still hundreds of other worlds out there to explore. There are all these different things that can happen. I think it's just the scale of it. And just use the James Bond game. I mean, yeah, sure, James Bond might be out there dealing with the Russians, but you're out there dealing with the Colombians. Like, you can have a whole different setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was saying. You could create your own stuff with it, and the system is very easy to create your own stuff and have that same kind of James Bond over the top feel for it. So, there was a question here. Has anyone actually played Giant Lands? I don't think so.
Does anyone actually want to play Giant Lands? You want to wear the mask and
get a mask?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. No. I'm going in full costume, so I get 20 points, not just 5. Thank you.
Sure.
By the way, my costume's my birthday suit, so everybody's going to suffer.
Oh my.
All right. Let's see. IP wise, I've run a lot of Star Wars over the years. You see, the one thing that kept keeps me away from games like that is those particular IPs is that everyone expects you to be doing the same thing. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, right? Everyone expects you to follow that storyline. They don't, or at least parallel to that storyline. They never talk about you playing a character that has nothing to do with the original IP, but other than being in the setting, so like if it's Star Wars, there's got to be a Jedi in the group. There's got to be, a smuggler in the group, or a Wookiee or something. Like, everyone wants to try to recapture that. They don't want to play, a water farmer on some, on Tatooine, and that's your whole existence. Same thing with Star Trek.
We had some really good Star Wars sessions that were. We had a Jedi in the group, of course, because one person wants to do it, but didn't act like Luke at all. Matter of fact, he was a disgruntled. I think he was a failed Jedi was the term.
That's
and I always play a mechanic of some sort. That's just what I tended to do because they needed a support character. But we did a lot of Corsac stuff, like flying and doing corporate running and dealing with something Black Sun, I think it was called. Nothing to do with anything with the movies and so forth.
My main problem is if I'm going to use Star Wars as like just a sci-fi setting, I could do everything in Traveler and not have to worry about the IP.
Yeah. Now, what kept me away from Modiphi's to Star Trek was the fact that it wasn't opened up like that. You had to play, at least initially, you had to play a Starfleet, a Starfleet officer. They didn't give you the option to be an Orion pirate, or a smuggler like like Mud. They just kind of pigeonholed you into one thing. Now, it took them almost like a year to do the Klingon expansion, where you could play Klingon characters, but they're still not fully fleshing out, the open world aspect of it, where you could play any kind of a character in the Star Trek universe. I think any of these games that we're mentioning here, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? And so you're going to be doing the same damn thing, what I'm saying? It's like you're, sometimes, it's there's not enough there to keep you really interested with the James Bond, even though you're going to probably play something very similar, like a secret agent. It didn't always have to be so over the top. You could have done different aspects of just the espionage kind of game, rather than save the world kind of game, because that, all the tools were there for you to do that kind of a thing.
Well, James Bond couldn't save the world if you didn't do your mission. You had to do some preliminary or side. I mean, you can always make that exciting for the characters as well. Sure, you're not in the movie, but without you, that movie couldn't be made.
Right. You're doing the, you're doing the henchman kind of thing.
You're kind of doing the Rogue One, for using the Star Wars reference. You're doing the Rogue One. You couldn't have that first movie if Rogue One didn't happen. Somebody finally decided to make a movie about you 30 years later.
Conan is an easy IP to play in. The world is huge, and the PCs may never run across each other.
I can see that.
And that's because the world isn't just the world; it's a time period. What I'm saying? So when you're playing in the setting is a time period, I think it frees you from doing whatever you want. Rather than Conan's stories were never told chronologically either. And so you don't have a real sense of you could be inserted into any kind of time frame, and you wouldn't have to necessarily, you might not even know that where Conan is at any given time, or it could even be a time period before his rise or after his rise, and you still wouldn't care because you're in the Hyborian age. You're not in
wouldn't it be great to play a game of just the rumors of like generations ago about Conan, Red Sonja, and so forth? And that's what you're living up. You're trying to live up to the reputation, and you can even skyrocket them. And I get it; he's already an over-the-top character, but you could skyrocket those to like Hercules type, immortality type stuff, and just like that's your inspiration. You can live up to. But of course, he's long dead, and the world has changed. Hey, I've got a couple of chores to do before I go to bed here.
Yeah, I'm going to be wrapping up pretty soon too.
Thank you very much for letting me on here. Partially hijacking your stream. I apologize,
no, this was.
Hope you both have a great night.
This was just a chill stream. Thanks for popping in. Good to see you. I agree that you can play the world and never meet and interact with the world portrayed on the TV movies in a fun way. Yeah, I mean, some genres and some IPs are just like so incredibly expansive. Not to play on the expanse, but like Firefly. I mean, what a great combination of sci-fi Western, I mean, you could carry that in so many different ways. And not having played the Firefly RPG, but I could certainly see how that IP can be used in probably different systems that it would play really well in as well. So that's another thing. So yeah, I don't mind IP play at all.
I want to say that some IPs are easier to play in than the others. Like for Conan, Howard was no Tolkien. He didn't go into a whole lot of detail about the settings itself.
Right.
So you could actually play wherever you want in there. I mean, he didn't go into details of government and stuff like that, or how this forest looked over here, all these mountain bloods. Conan was too busy getting loot and getting drunk.
Yeah.
So, or saving a girl over here or someone over here, So that IP is a lot easier to play in than I would say the Expanse would be in, because people come into the Expanse and they expect what they've seen, and pretty much when you look at the Expanse, while they talk about the governments and stuff like that, and you got your belters and stuff, what the hell are you going to do in the setting? The characters have exciting lives because they're finding alien junk.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to find alien junk too? Then it seems like you're just copying what's already been written in the books and seen on the show,
Yeah.
I think people have expectations when they go into a game like The Expanse, whereas in Conan, yeah, sure, Conan's in the world somewhere, or maybe not. Maybe he's dead. But you know what? The world is a lot more open.
Yeah. That's why I was kind of hoping that they'd come out with a true Fallout RPG.
Oh, that would be
I
cool.
really
Yeah.
thought, since Modifius semi has the IP for the board game, I'm really shocked that they didn't, come out with the come out with an RPG.
Well, maybe Bethesda's keeping that close to their chest for some reason or another. They don't want to sell off the IP for an RPG.
Bethesda is, they're not where they were, in the past. They're the Fallout franchise is nowhere near where it was.
No.
At the time. I mean, I guess when they come out with the successor of Skyrim, we'll see where they take that. But I think they're working on that. I think Elder Scrolls 6 is due to come out in like 2 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 I get the feeling that Modifius may have wanted all the game rights to Fallout 4, but all they got were a board game.
Yeah.
Because Fallout 4 itself, I know it isn't really, but it's an RPG.
Yeah.
So maybe Bethesda says, you're not going to make an RPG of our RPG.
Or even an Elder Scrolls RPG. If they got that IP, oh my God.
What? That would be freaking sweet. But again, that's their IP is the RPG. That's what you're playing when you play the computer.
If Modifius got that IP for an RPG, Elder Scrolls RPG, that might very well be the 5e killer.
That's the big thing, when Green Ronin got the Dragon Age IP, that was it for them. They pretty much took off with that, and now they've spun off the age system into other like generic system, Fantasy Age, Modern Age, and Expanse is an age system also.
Right.
Carry on my weird son, huh?
Yes, yeah.
A little bit Kansas.
So let's see. Do we have new? Yes. Expanse was supposed to. Let's see. I see. We went quite a bit. How did I miss so many of these?
We've been yakking way too much.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, it depends on how much you know about the IP. Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, I'm a total Howard Grognard, and I'm totally into Hyboria and all that stuff. But your person who's seen the movies, that's what they've seen,
right?
So.
Was supposed to be a WoW MMO. Factions of Earthers, Martians, Belters, and the idea would never picked up. So just another rope book instead. Yeah. What was that other sci-fi that they turned into a video game? Was the one that was set in St. Louis? Oh, what the hell?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
Uh,
I played the game too. The game wasn't that bad, but it got kind of redundant after a while.
Yeah, all the aliens
Um,
took over and everything like that. Aliens,
yeah,
it's sort of
yeah.
a faux alien invasion. Yeah.
Oh, it's something with a D.
Yep.
Not Defenders.
We're having senior moments. I
Yes,
can't remember either.
I remember.
I actually had the game.
I have the game. It's
I got it
on
on Steam. Yeah,
It's on
I got
Steam.
it.
I just can't remember it now.
Yeah. And the
It
game
wasn't
was
it wasn't a bad game. It was
It-
almost like playing Rifts, actually, right?
right.
Rifts, the video game Rifts, put up by Tryon Worlds.
And actually, it wasn't a bad series either, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, it was. It started off really slow,
Oh,
but then it got a little bit more interesting. Defiance.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
I know it was with a D.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the age system.
I like the age system actually.
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah, I don't know the age system. I've never played the Fate system either. That's Defiance. Yep, we got there too.
The age system is a D6 dice pool-y system. You don't roll a ton of dice.
Yeah. Yeah, Defiance. Yeah, it wasn't a bad video game. It wasn't a bad series.
It wasn't a bad series,
It
actually.
was a very short series. 2 seasons?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe 2 seasons. But it was serviceable. There was a couple sci-fis that kind of came short. I didn't like Killjoys, but I liked the other one. Dark Matter was a good.
Dark
was
Matter was pretty nice.
And that was also only 2 seasons.
Yeah. I like Dark Matter. Killjoys, it was really not, the first couple episodes were pretty great. I actually thought it was pretty good, and then it sort of fell off. So.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting into Killjoys. Just wasn't what I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
What were they? They were like mercenaries or assassins or something.
Yeah.
And it just didn't really capture that feel, for me. I thought that I think Dark Matter, with its the one Japanese character, was more like what Killjoys should have been, right?
What Dark Matter brought you in is they had the point of view of the people in the movie, the characters in the show, were that they didn't know anything about themselves
right?
Or the setting either. They were just basically zeros, just like you coming in and watching the show. Nobody knew nothing. So yeah, that was pretty great.
Howard the Duck RPG.
Never.
Hey, just play. That's Toon. Play Toon. Steve Jackson's Toon. If you're talking about Defiance,
are you talking about the age system?
Oh, the age system. I see.
I don't know.
The beta for the game. Launch. No, if he's talking about launch, and probably talking about Defiance.
Defiance, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when you talk about rough launches, you're talking about an MMO.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Yep, that's the story of most MMOs. Very, very few MMOs have very smooth launches. Probably the best launch I've ever experienced in an MMO, and that was my thing for like 15 years, from like 2002 to 2017, nothing but MMOs. And the best was probably City of Heroes. That game launched so damn smooth, played smooth throughout, no problems whatsoever. Just phenomenal launch of that system. On the opposite end, World of Warcraft, when that first launched, it was unplayable. You could not play that game whatsoever. It used to put you into like a lag spin your character would spin like a top, and you couldn't do anything. You just had to shut down your computer and refire it up again and hope that you didn't get that, that spin again. You used to freeze up all the time. By far one of the worst launches I've ever seen. Other systems, big Conan fan. So the Age of Conan, which they started calling the Age of Casters, because it was just such an advantage to being a spellcaster in that game. And but the one thing I learned really interesting with the Age of Conan was that how they have boss battles, right? And they had this system set up where if you went in with a mixed group of characters and you started attacking the boss would be able to calculate your cooldowns and the mixed group that it was in and start to react in a way where it progressively became more and more of a challenge to beat the boss. So you had to time everything out right. And they had the system so streamlined where, the boss could automatically just respond and react. And every boss battle was so goddamn tough. All right. If you went at it with a mixed group. And then we noticed that, one time I went in with a group of 5 barbarians, and the boss could not handle the same abilities being fired down with the same cooldowns and stuff like that, because it couldn't respond to a second same attack, because its mitigating ability was still on its cooldown. And so we were like, hey, the easiest way to beat these bosses is just to take the same 5 character types and just launch it at them, and you defeat them in a minute and a half.
Wow.
As opposed to like a 15-minute battle where you
Right.
all suffered a group wipe. And then they changed it where you couldn't enter the cavern unless you had one of each type of thing. But it was a really interesting thing to find that loophole in the system, that they implemented, and then from there, the game kind of lost its luster, because it's like, all right, so now they just got into a whole, bunch of nonsense with, purple drops, and, you had to, do the raids in order to, get the special gear and stuff like that. The best loot wasn't crafted loot anymore. You had to do those raids. They tried to make it into a World of Warcraft rather than, being its own thing. But yeah, it was, some of the MMOs that were out there, each one had its own little, aspects of them that really stood out as a positive. Let's see. I was talking about Defiance. Yeah, but it was a very simple, search and destroy kind of fetch and go kind of game. And then it had just like the video game The Rifts, right, where you had to go where the alien spawns were, and you'd go there and you fight them, and then you'd wait to see when the next one was coming, and you'd run out there, and you were getting the specialty loot drops, I think, from sealing up those. They played exactly like Rifts, and I don't know which one came first or afterwards. I think it came after Rifts. I'm pretty sure it came after Rifts, because it was a true ripoff of it. Champions Online was a really awesome beta. I played that too for a little bit. I was comparing it with, I was playing Champions Online with comparing it to City of Heroes. City of Heroes was a better game. But Champions was halfway decent. and I think I played the DC one as well. And I still like City of Heroes better.
I remember playing Matrix Online. I think that was the only besides Defiance that I played as far as MMO. That was a weird game. They had weird people playing it.
Yeah. Okay, what time? Holy cow. 2.5 hours. All right. All right. So, hey, it was nice meeting you, Sean. I know I see you commenting on Shauner's videos as well. So, but it was nice having you on, and
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, and certainly I'll be trying to do these things every once in a while, probably once a week or so. Try to get a live stream out there. So again, we will certainly look to. We should do something with just Conan. We'll spend the whole time on Conan.
Okay.
2D20. We'll get DM James on there, get Crafty on there, and
that'd be cool.
We'll drag Max in, and we'll do the 4-on-1. Like that news show. It's like 4 against 1.
Beat Max over the head with Modiphius.
Yeah. Once he actually starts reading it, hopefully he'll start reading it soon, and that way he'll have it. Yeah, I think he will too. I think that he'll, because you don't, like I said, you don't encounter that until you read The Wanderer. That was the last freaking book. So the rest of the game is so solid, that I think that he'll end up liking it. All right. So, well, thanks for joining, everybody. And, this thing will post for replay probably in a couple hours. I think that's usually how it works. It'll, sometimes you won't be able to see the comments for a while, but then it will come up there. Conan the Librarian. Yes, I got all 20 books. So it's, and the books are a really good layout. I have videos that are like 2.5, 3 years old with Conan. It was like some of the first videos I did on my channel. So, so that's, you can go back there and see like the earlier versions of the character creation and everything. And just, some of the gameplay that I was doing, because I was doing a lot of the GM+1 gameplay, and it just works so well. And I came up with a good system of creating adventures for just one player, and just kind of had like a very formulaic, but they were always very action packed and cinematic, and just worked really well. I also created a henchman system around it too. So if you wanted to, have someone in a reputation system that you would build up as well, which would help you gain more henchmen, so that you had some fodder to throw at the other fodder. So it just became like a support system around your main character, so that you never had to go out there and do your own shopping, or go out there and gather your own information or whatever. You'd have your henchmen kind of do that kind of stuff, and you could just focus on adventuring. But anyway, all right, thanks for joining. Great to have you on, and everyone else, have a good night.
You later. You have a good night.
Take it easy.